wanted to look at basement fires because as firefighters ourselves, we know that these are inherently more dangerous both for the occupants but also for firefighters. When we're looking at basement fires, we have limited access from the interior and often from the exterior. So that not only affects how we fight the fire from a fire suppression standpoint, but it also significantly impacts ventilation and the survivability of people inside the building.
They can all be deadly, and they all have their own specific hazards. But we have to understand what those hazards are, what our limitations are, what tactics we can use. And the test in here clearly shows us what our best options are.
Hi, my name is Tony Carroll. I'm a battalion fire chief with the District of Columbia Fire Department and an Eastern Region Director for the ISFSI. I have been fortunate to be involved with the basement fire study that was undertaken by ISFSI and ULFSRI. I am currently one of the ISFSI instructor cadre that is teaching the 8-hour class called Understanding and Fighting Basement Fires. In order to develop this class, ISFSI gathered fire chiefs, officers, and researchers that had significant experience with basement fires. In some cases, the experience was the result of line-of-duty death due to a basement fire. This video will provide you with a brief overview of the study and present some of the key findings. The tactical considerations can be summarized into 3 points. 1. The need for a thorough size-up. 2. The importance of recognizing ventilation-limited fire conditions and the need of coordinating the attack. And 3. Getting water into the below-grade space quickly is needed to reduce the risk of the fire growing and transitioning to flashover. This class has 7 modules. Module 1 reviews previous basement fire research as well as basement-related line-of-duty deaths. The technical advisory panel also reviewed this information to determine the objectives of this study. Module 2 defines and discusses the types of basements based on access. Module 3 and 4 contain the science to aid in the understanding of why certain suppression methods work the way they do and how PPE works to protect firefighters from the fire environment. Module 5 covers each of the experiments in detail. Module 6 is focused on the tactical considerations, and Module 7 shows you other information resources that you can use to learn from and teach with. We have all heard of incidents where firefighters were hurt or killed while fighting a basement fire. Based on a review of basement fire incidents, 2 key hazards were identified. 1, the potential for structural collapse, and 2, firefighters getting caught in the exhaust portion of a flow path. Several studies have been conducted by UL and others examining floor collapses of both legacy and modern construction. However, only a small amount of research was conducted on the suppression component of fighting basement fires. So fighting basement fires became a key objective of this study. The panel also developed a list of questions that had not been answered in the previous studies. These questions shaped the experiments that would be conducted. Across the nation, there are many definitions of a basement. For our purposes and to provide a common definition, a basement is an area of a building that is partially or entirely below grade. One of the features that makes basements different from each other is the available access to the basement. This access goes hand in hand with the potential ventilation that a basement fire would have. We have classified basements into 3 categories based on access: no exterior access, limited exterior access, and exterior access. No exterior access means that there are no doors, windows, or vents that could be used to enter the basement from outside the structure or could be used to flow water into the structure. The only firefighter access would be to enter the building and enter the basement by an interior stairway. A basement fire in a house with no exterior access will become ventilation limited very quickly. The image on the right shows that the exchange of hot smoke, represented by the red arrow, and fresh air, represented by the blue arrow, can only occur at open doors or windows above ground. The flashover potential for a fire in a basement with no direct ventilation from the exterior is low. The second basement category is limited exterior access. The access vent could be a window or a grate on a crawl space. Anything that, if opened, would allow smoke to exit the basement or air to enter the basement. The opening would also allow water to be flowed into the basement from the outside. The basement with windows or vents that would allow air to flow into the basement will be able to sustain a larger fire, and therefore it can generate more heat and toxic smoke. Full exterior access to a basement is an opening such as a large window or door that would allow a firefighter to enter the basement directly from the exterior to extinguish the fire. Full exterior access typically means that enough air can be provided to the fire in the basement to enable flashover. Let's say that we have a ventilation limited fire in a basement with exterior access. If openings are made on the basement level and the floor above, untenable conditions for both civilians and firefighters can occur within a matter of seconds.
The experiments were conducted in a structure built to accommodate 3 different access or ventilation conditions. For no exterior access, all initial firefighting actions would occur from the upper deck or ground level, and all potential openings to the basement would be sealed. For the limited access case, the structure had 4 side windows, which would allow smoke or air movement, and it could be used as a point to flow water into the basement. For the full exterior access case, a sliding glass door and an escape window were installed at the basement level at the rear of the structure. These would allow access for a firefighter to make entry into the basement. In addition to the fuel load provided by the exposed wood eye joists and the OSB on the ceiling, movable fuel loads such as 4 sofas and 20 pallets were positioned on both sides of the basement. Each of the sofas was capable of providing a peak heat release rate of more than 4 megawatts. In other words, there was plenty of fuel to create a realistic ventilation limited fire condition in the basement. The basements have plenty of fuel. It will be a fuel rich or ventilation limited environment. Instrumentation for measuring the fire environment was installed both on the upper level and the basement level of the structures. The data from these instruments were used to determine the hazard generated by the fire throughout the entire structure, as well as the change created by the fire attack. As part of the ISFSI project on understanding and fighting basement fires, we're examining a number of different nozzles to give firefighters options. Some basements have no exterior windows or any access through an exterior door, so their only access is through an interior stair. So we're examining the fire dynamics of that type of fire, and then looking at options of making a hole just inside the door threshold and perhaps using a straight stream nozzle or a fog nozzle, or perhaps a piercing nozzle, a fog nail, or some sort of cellar nozzle in order to cool it off, prevent any type of chance of flashover prior to making entry and going down into the basement. So we're doing some flow testing of the nozzles just to look at their pattern, look at their flow rates, things like the fog nail, very small device. It flows on the order of 15 to 17 gallons per minute, produces a pretty fine spray of water droplets near the ceiling. The piercing nozzles also do a similar thing. They flow on the order of 125 gallons a minute. Some of the piercing nozzle designs where you'd pound it down through the floor give you a fairly fine spray or mist that extends out 8 to 10 feet and would again cool the wood underneath, cool the gases. People use them for attic fires as well. And then other piercing nozzles have more of a discharge out and down, and they can flow up to 200 gallons a minute. And as you increase the pressure and the flow rate, the water droplets get smaller in those cases as well. And again, the idea is to get the water on the surface of the burning ceiling of the basement, the unprotected wood ceiling of the basement. That's really the bulk of the fuel, and that's one of the higher challenges of knocking out that basement fire. We sort of have 2 different types of cellar nozzles that we're working with. One is the Bresnan distributor, which is sort of the classic cellar nozzle, and it has solid streams that emit from it and rotate around, again throwing water up and against the ceiling area to cool the wood and the floor assembly that's on fire. And then we have another version that's also a rotating applicator type nozzle, except it has 4 fog nozzles on it that whip around and have a fog spray that's again cooling the ceiling, cooling the gases, trying to distribute water through the basement with a throw of at least 10 feet, maybe 12 feet in some cases.
As you can see in this photo, we use an assortment of nozzles and appliances in the experiments. Most of these designs have been around and used by the fire service for many years. During the summer of 2017, 12 multi-part experiments were conducted examining the 3 basement access conditions and the use of various hose streams, nozzles, and appliances. Hundreds of people from fire departments across the country had the opportunity to witness the experiments. The study led to a wide range of tactical considerations. We will discuss a few of the tactical considerations here. Size up is a must. If you can locate the seat of the fire and identify the geometry of the structure, for example, the presence of a basement and the type of access it has, you will be able to conduct a more effective fire attack. Depending on the basement access, cues the fire may be showing you upon arrival could be misleading. Remember, nothing showing means nothing. Assume lightweight construction and a ventilation limited fire and take appropriate actions until you can prove otherwise.
It's imperative that the company officer, first arriving company officer, conduct a 360-degree size up. In our incident, the initial arriving company officer did not conduct a 360-degree size up. Had she conducted a 360-degree size up, she would have found that the access to the basement would have been more direct and a lot safer approach to the extinguishment. And I can't emphasize enough that the 360-degree observation or view or size up is critical on every incident.
Below grade fires are most likely going to be ventilation limited fires. If you have excess fuel and heat in a fire compartment and you add oxygen, the fire is going to get larger and hotter. Therefore, it is important to coordinate ventilation with your suppression actions. In some cases, the best move may be closing the door at the top of the basement stairs or keeping vents to the basement closed until the line is charged and in place.
One of the things that's critically important that we've all known is the importance of coordinating ventilation and fire attack. That you just cannot overstate the importance of that, of good communication, of crew integrity, of strong incident management presence and incident command to make sure that those functions happen as closely as possible, even if they don't happen as closely as possible together, that they're happening in a coordinated way, because there's so much variation in buildings and the built environment and from coast to coast. But I think one of the things that holds constant in that is this criticality of ensuring that ventilation and fire attack are coordinated and that you have good control of the incident.
So both these tests combined, over a year or two period, really create an understanding of why we were successful for so long in battling basement fires with no ventilation, as opposed to basement fires with a lot of exterior ventilation, and we really have to know the difference. So, in short, it's as simple as you don't ventilate until you're putting water on a fire, and you don't delay putting water on a fire.
Getting water into the below grade space quickly is needed to reduce the risk of the fire growing and transitioning through flashover. The study showed that flowing water into the basement through the floor, through the side windows, or through the basement door were effective at reducing the temperatures in the basement, at the top of the stairs, and even in the bedrooms. Here you can see red arrows represent fire exhaust. The green arrows are air inlets. Blue arrows are water application. The purple arrows indicate data collection locations. For example, a 150 gallon per minute straight stream was flowed into a side window opposite the side of the fire. Even with this challenging location, significant reductions in temperatures can be seen in the basement and the upper level. Also, note how the oxygen levels increased after the fire attack. This is just one of the many fire attack scenarios that were conducted during this study. Keep in mind that early water application can also slow the degradation of the flooring system. I hope this video has made you want to learn more about understanding and fighting basement fires. The full report is available for free from the ULFSRI website and the ISFSI website. If you are interested in attending a class, please check the ISFSI webpage to see if there's a class scheduled for your area.